So here's the pile of wood we were dealing with. This is what we dragged in from the woods. I showed
Do a
this
little bit of
pile in a
fueling here
previous
from when
video,
I
but I
did the
just wanted to
braking.
give some perspective on how many
Let's
logs we
see,
end up
six
splitting with
bolts,
this machine.
4 for the engine plate, 2 for the scatter shield. This one, of course, 5 out of 6 went in super easy. This one, of course, you have no room for the wrench, but who cares? All right, let's see. Power on. Yeah. Fuel on. Choke. Hang on.
So I'm going to overlay some audio here. This engine came off of an air compressor. The backstory on this log splitter is that it used to be from a rental company. And obviously the engine at some point in time was taken off of an air compressor because it had the little pneumatic deal on it, which you would hook up to your tank. When it got to a certain pressure, this little plunger would pop out and it would throttle down the engine. And then when you needed air, the plunger would drop down and it'll throttle the thing back up. Well, I took all that apart when I rebuilt this engine. And for some reason, and I'm not entirely 100% sure why, I did not put the actual arm that you can control the throttle with. And here it's shadowy inside the woodshed, and it's like 116 degrees inside this woodshed. It's about 98 degrees on the outside of the world, and in here it's just a sauna. And I should have taken this out into the daylight, but it was already kind of the end of the day, and I think I was a bit hypoxic anyway. But I left all the appropriate throttle linkage at home because I forgot them. I had them all bagged up, and I'm like, oh, I'll leave them with the engine. Everything I took off the old engine, off this engine before I rebuilt it, I threw in a Ziploc bag, and I said, I'll keep it with the engine in case we ever use it for something other than a log splitter engine. Fortunately, I saved all the arms and rods and control rods. Unfortunately, I had forgot to pack them. I set them on the workbench when I was loading things up for this trip, and it didn't make its way up there. So I've got to figure out a way to kind of bypass the throttle, which ultimately I did. And Skippy and I ended up splitting all the logs that we had brought in from the mountain. So I guess in the end it was okay. And here I'm just trying to mess with it, and I finally put a different screw in for the idle screw. And you'll hear it come up this way. So while putting that longer screw, replacing the regular idle screw with that longer screw just so I could get the throttle to stay open, it's still not, in my opinion, at the proper throttle because that ram is slower than I remember it. But it's what we had to do to get done with what we got to get done, so let's get split in.
right, so check that out. I just had to put the camera down and had to pay attention to make sure all my fingers and toes, as well as Skippy's fingers and toes. There you go. Nobody's going home being called Stumpy or Knuckles, or Three-Fingered Skip. Got every log that we brought in today. I think those two, and I think there's one like buried in there somewhere. We busted up every log. You see it made quite a mound here. We're not really into the detailed stacking of firewood. I think that's something that I'd rather not spend my time doing. This is fine. I'll back these little trailers in. I stack them better in the trailer just because you can carry more wood and you're not going back and forth as much. But the rebuilt Honda did okay. It did all right. The governor is probably not put together correctly. May have mentioned it earlier in this video that I had. This engine was off an air compressor because it had a thingus that would kick down the idle, and it had a thingus to put an airline to. And I pulled all that stuff off, and the governor itself wasn't working well. I thought it was working well at my house, but apparently it's not working well here, and I can't find the bag with all the spare parts. I kept everything that I pulled off the carbureted system there, and I can't find it. So all I did was I just turned up the idle screw to push the butterfly valve open, and it was fine. It's fine. It made this, and this is glorious. Got the old fan going here because it is 90 right now, 89, 90, 91, something like that. It's cuckoo. But that's it. Turned the fuel off, ran the carburetor dry right now. That's as soon as it shut off is when I picked up the camera. So the 30, how much was this rebuild kit? 30 bucks, 28 bucks, something like that. 25 bucks, I forget. You have to look at the video of when I rebuilt it. It done all right. I like it. All right, log splitter's done. On to the next project. Gotta go, gotta run.